But I want to take just a quick moment to introduce Team 9848. My name is Ruth Barrero, for anybody who doesn't know. I'm the coach of 9848, 12441, 15458, and 20204, four teams from Clearview Regional High School in Mullica Hill, New Jersey. This is session 2 out of a 4-session series. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our 3 student presenters today, Jacob, Connor, and Mitch.
All right, welcome everyone to GEARP New Jersey's second presentation. This one will be about unlocking the portfolio and trying to make the best portfolio you can for judging at leagues and hopefully beyond. So just the breakdown of this presentation, we'll start with the award breakdown and how to incorporate portfolio elements for each individual award, like portfolio design examples for potential page setups and solutions, and also each element on the page, and also strategies and planning for any helpful tips and tricks, timelines, recourses, and iteration for your robot. The overview of each award, the most important one, by far, is the Inspire Award, which is worth 60 points for first place, 30 points for second place, and 15 points for third place. And then there are the rest of the awards, which each hold the same amount of points. There's MCI, TA, and then Think, which will be explained later. For any of these awards, first place is 12 points, second place is 6 points, while third place is 3 points. For the categories, there are the 3 which were mentioned before. The first one is MCI, which is Machine, Creativity, and Innovation. This is basically just the mechanical aspects of your robot, and including the actual build as well as the design in CAD on Onshape or whatever else you use. The second category is Team Attributes, which includes the Connect, Reach, and Sustain awards, and this includes things like skill development for your team, sustainability, and outreach. And then lastly, this is just a single award. It is the Think Award, and this is the reflection of your team in both outreach and tech throughout the entire portfolio. And some important things to note are that teams are only eligible to win or be a runner-up award or runner-up for a single judged award at event. So they can't be it can't be multiple. It's only one. And also, the robot performance is generally not considered for judged awards unless it's specifically listed in criteria. So you could win an award even with a subpar robot and make it to states. All right.
Okay, so I'm Jake, and I'm gonna quickly go through a brief overview of all the awards, the requirements, and what they are, and how you can see them in your portfolio. So first up, we have the Innovate Award. First up, we have the Innovate Award. So it's presented to the team who has the most out-of-the-box solution for something pretty unique on their robot. It can either be the full robot or just a singular component. But basically, in the portfolio, how this relates to portfolio is that you have to describe, display, and document, which I'll be saying a lot, that component and why it's so good. So you need to give a good overview of your process for thinking of it and what it does differently compared to other teams. So not only that, but it also has to be functional. So at, say, higher levels at states and all that, they will, if they see it and they want to consider you for innovate or design, they'll actually go and watch you on the field to make sure that, you're telling the full truth. It's not fully, it fully functions and it will work every time. This also should be describing how you make your decisions to get to these processes, which will come in handy for a lot of other awards. So because it's an MCI award, this will overlap a little bit, but most of them just have some sort of engineering design process in there. So next, also MCI, is the Control Award. This is based off software and sensors. So it's the best team that best uses them to increase the functionality of the robot. So for example, using odometry pods during autonomous would be an example of something you could do. And then your portfolio would need to cover what those extra components are and how they work. And you need to show that you're using external sources like those odometry pods or any other kind of sensors. And then again, everything should work consistently and it should be effective. You shouldn't just have it for no reason. So this needs to be an innovation that will really help you out. Next is the Design Award, which is kind of the combination of everything. So it's a award to the team that has the best form, function, and aesthetic balance. So your robot needs to be good at just about everything to win the Design Award. It's the overall robot award. So to get this, you need to have the robot, but you also need to document your design process. So having, again, your engineering process somewhere in your portfolio, or maybe like a cost benefit analysis of how you made certain decisions for certain things of your robot, that'll really help. And then obviously being more distinguished from everyone else with either the look of your robot, standing out, and functionally being the best on the field. And then obviously this should be consistent. Your robot should be consistent with what is on your portfolio, what you have listed. And then now we move on to the Team Attribute Awards. So first we have the Connect Award. So the Connect Award is kind of what it sounds like. It's connecting with your STEM community. So a lot of ways, one of the best ways to do this is your goal development. So if you can, in your portfolio, set goals for your team members. And when you set those goals, you can put steps taken to achieve your goals and interloop mentors into that. So connecting with mentors is probably one of the best ways you can do this, alongside many others like regular community engagement and all that. So again, really helps if they're somewhere in the STEM community and you need to provide specific examples of how it works. So if you have like a big robot design page, you could put little spaces where what each mentor did or how they helped out. That will really help you get this award. Next, we have Reach, which is for reaching out and getting new people into FIRST, essentially. So it's all outreach, and your portfolio needs to show all of your outreach objectives and how those relate to FIRST in general. So this can be anything from recruiting teams, coaches, mentors, or volunteers. So an example of something like this would again be mentors, which overlaps with everything else. And then you could also even just getting sponsorships from companies. Doing that, by that you're spreading awareness of FIRST and telling people about it, and then you could talk to them about bringing them on to mentors, and then they've become part of the FIRST community. So documenting all of that is essential for this award and a lot of other TA awards. And then, of course, you need to be an ambassador for FIRST. So making it really showing all the good sides of it, making sure make it sound amazing as usual, as it is, And then we have Sustain, which is a lot about your future. So in your this is a good one because you don't have to have there isn't a long list of requirements. All of the ones you see now, you don't have to do all of them. You just need to have one. So like your finances and financial stability, you could have a page dedicated to that, of where you get your money, how you allocate that, all your funds, and what you could do with it. You have project planning as well. And then team sustainability. So an example would be like how you get new team members, and how you get mentors to return for coming years, and then how you track your progress towards all of that. So basically planning out your future and making sure your team is well set for not only just the season, but multiple seasons to come will really help you. Not only for obviously winning the award, but also as a team in general. So then again, having roles for your team members, having your process for developing leadership, all things that kind of go into sustain, so that it can your team can operate in a cycle, so you can graduate and keep having new members to make your team as great as it can be. And now we have the two like really big awards. So we have Think. So Think is essentially the best way you can communicate your team's journey throughout the season. So in your portfolio, it's kind of it's a combination of everything. So you need engineering process. So it's like an example would be, you're obviously building a robot. So documenting how you build the robot and how you make your decisions, your lessons learned throughout that. So maybe you could, for example, you had a design that you thought would be really good, but maybe you realize, hey, this isn't as effective as this. That's a lesson you've learned, and that can be shown in your portfolio. Cost benefit analysis are kind of the same thing. And then mathematical analysis is also a really big thing, especially this year. If you throw in like some physics for like your launchers, like how the ball moves, that will really help out and really impress all the judges. And then there's more things encouraged, like learning from mentors, new skills. So that ties more into sustainability, how you recruit people from first, that ties back in, and how you identified your goals, and making sure your portfolio is very organized and intuitive. So your judges have they know where to look. You shouldn't have just big walls of text. You should have like key points, highlights, and everything to make sure they get the point across. It shouldn't be like a jumbled mess. And then the even bigger award we have is Inspire. So Inspire, you need to be contender for at least one award in each category. So your MCI, your TA, and Think. Now, again, as Connor said, you can only win one award. So you're not going to win the awards. You need to be contenders for them. So essentially, if Inspire didn't exist, you would be winning the awards. So being contenders for all of them is a very key part. It's essentially being the best FTC team. So you got to be positive and inclusive of everyone, helping other teams out, making sure every member contributes to the success. Like you can't just have like pit judging, for example. They'll come around and ask you certain things about your robot. Like if they see it during the portfolio, or you say during judging, they'll ask everyone has a chance to be asked the question. You need to make sure they're all able to answer. So each team member knows kind of what's going on, and they'll help you with that. And then obviously being able to describe, demonstrate, document your experiences and knowledge to judges. So this is kind of like this is every award combined. It's all of the huge ones. And now,
Okay, I'm Mitch. I'm gonna pick off where Jake left off. And now we're gonna go through some layout examples of how you could design your portfolio layout. Each team has a different story to tell, and some may have a lot to try and squeeze in, and some might be trying to figure out how they want to organize their information. We're going to reference some pages that we've done over the years in Clearview's FTC, and we're going to see what judges could be looking for. So for a strong example of think, something the portfolio should definitely focus on your goals, your team goals, and how they're tracked. This page is taken from GearView's Worlds portfolio, and in the team page, each team member has a breakdown of their role on the team, their contributions to the team, specific to things that are later referenced in the portfolio, along with goals and the steps that they took to implement those goals. We actually did have a mentor help us with goal setting, and we had a little goal setting workshop on our own time. So if you can have individual goals, but also having goals as a team is a really good thing to put on this page. So as long as you're able to highlight certain aspects of your team's journey, that's good. That can be put throughout the entire page, but make sure you're always calling back to your team or individual goals. For MCI, all teams should be focusing on some part of the engineering design process. That is a non-negotiable for tech awards. You can focus on how you conceived your 1.0 or your 2.0s, an innovative part of your robot. This section of the page is it was from 9848's Worlds portfolio, and we were having a breakdown of what we wanted our 1.0 robot to do. And we also included pros and cons. So if you're a team that has a 2.0 robot that you want to talk about in your portfolio, make sure to include your pros and cons, because that way you're able to show the judges your thought process and why you decided to evolve, and how you can also quantify your improvement. And for TA awards, this page is actually from one of our sister teams, 20204, and they won Connect, I believe, last year at their league tournament. You need to also include parts about interacting with the community, the STEM community and the non-STEM community. 20204 had a really strong community outreach plan, so they make sure to highlight not only their efforts to sustain their team, connect with first in their community, they also highlighted their team bonding. That counts as well. So if you're able to include financial plans, recruitment, connections that you have, visits that you have, connections with teachers, mentors, those are all great things to include in team attribute award pages.
All right, now onto the timeline of roughly when you should at least plan on getting your portfolio done and completed to the best of your ability. The first step is to create a rough draft and like page outlines for like what you're going to be putting on there, just to have an idea of what you're putting on and what to write for the future. And step 2 is to gather and organize your content from your engineering notebook if you have one, or if you don't, just try to collect all the information that you have and organize it to prepare yourself to put it on your portfolio. Step 3 is to finalize content and graphics and to start building your narrative. Building your narrative is a very important part of portfolio making, because it's great for judges to see how your team has grown throughout the years in build any mechanical and outreach. It's great to see growth just in general. Step 4 is to seek feedback from peers and mentors for improvement. No matter how good you think your portfolio is, it is always the best choice to find other people to review it and find any mistakes that you wouldn't have otherwise noticed. And this doesn't even have to be one time. You can talk to them, work on it, and talk to them again just as many times as you can to really improve your portfolio. And step 5 is really just finalizing your portfolio and getting ready to print it and present it to the judges. And just some general tips and tricks for your portfolio, like I said in the last slide, or just in general, to mentor/peer reviews, because you want to tailor your portfolio to resonate with the judges, because the primary audience for your portfolio is the judges while you're at leagues. And your portfolio should align clearly with each award description, because in the end, that's what you're making your portfolio for, to win awards. And something else to note is that the judges have a very limited time to read it over. So make all the space in your portfolio count. Not every portfolio needs to hit the 16-page max. You don't have to have almost completely empty pages. If you just consolidate them into one large page, it'll look so much better. It'll look very clean and very organized. You want the space you have to effectively convey the message that you're making. And also another important trick is for test prints. Test print every page if you're able to, and make sure that you have everything finalized before your competition, just to make sure that everything comes in time. Order 2 copies, one for the judges panel and one for your pit, or if you lose one, because some judges will also come to your pits, and it'll also be cool for other teams to possibly see your portfolio. Another tip is for graphics and binding. To make our portfolio, 984 uses Canva, which I think is the most common way of making a portfolio. You could also use Google Slides, but Canva is a really good resource because multiple people can collaborate and you can see live changes. And your team's personality should shine through your pages. You should have each page have a voice, I guess. So definitely include team pictures, or consider creating a branding scheme we did. We're the pineapple team. So try to have that for each page. And last but not least, constructive criticism. You should encourage constructive feedback by asking specific questions. This helps mentors provide feedback from the mentors that you're asking for to review your portfolio. And asking for feedback, constructive feedback, helps mentors provide targeted insights, ensuring your portfolio evolves effectively and meets high quality standards. Does anyone have any final questions or comments?
All right, everybody. So thank you so much, 9848. So I have the Q&A open, so you should be able to drop any questions in there. Again, we have 9848 team members who are a wealth of information. Let's see, Jacob, Connor, and Mitch, how many portfolios have you had to do at this point? So how many seasons have you been in, while we're waiting for a couple of questions to get dropped into the chat? So Mitch, we'll start with you.
Yeah, this is my 5th season in FTC, and I also helped work on 9848 States and Worlds portfolio as an AMPed member. So I think this season might be my 8th portfolio that I'm working on. So I've looked through a lot of these.
All right, how about you, Connor?
This is my 3rd year in robotics. I haven't read as many or done as many portfolios as Mitch. I've only done 3, 1 per year, and this is on 94 this year. This is my 3rd portfolio.
All right, and Jake?
So this is my 3rd year in robotics, but last year my team went to states, so we did 2 portfolios. So technically, I guess this is my 4th.
All right, awesome. So we've got 2 questions so far in the chat, and again, everybody, don't be shy. Please feel to drop in any comments. I think the questions are one of the best parts of presentations like this. So the first question is, what is the best way to document or show innovation if a team does a V1 and a V2 robot? All right, so when we've got like a V1 and a V2, and this question was dropped when you all were talking about the Innovate Award. So what do we think?
Well, I think for our team at the moment, we have one page that's like specifically for our 1.0, or 1.0 to 1.75. That's what we have. And you can just describe everything you have on there. And you can also include any like reasons that you might have wanted to like grow from that, or like why you wanted to make like your V2. You can explain like improvements. Like it really shows the like the growth that your team had and how you made a better robot as the year progressed.
Right. Connor, while we have Mitch jump in here with her answer, can you go back to the Innovate slide, rubric requirements, and then we'll hear from Mitch?
Yeah, what I would definitely add on to that is that you need to show almost like a compare and contrast. You need to show what, for your first robot, what did you set out to achieve with it? What capabilities did you want it to have? And then you can either add the result if you have data on it, or you can have like your pros and your cons. And the cons should definitely be a design flaw that you plan to address in your 2.0. And in your 2.0 can be how you did that. I know if you're looking at 9848's Worlds portfolio, the engineering design process, the entire thing is page 10. We also added, I would also recommend adding like a pathway of how your team evaluates design changes and how you like to implement them, because I know it's different for every person's team, but definitely highlighting what went well, what didn't go so well, and how we intended to change that in our next version. Highlighting those 3 things is really important.
All right, and before we go to Jake, I just want to point out we did drop the a link to the PDF of the 9848 Worlds portfolio from last year. So if you want to look at that page 10 on your screen that Mitch was referring to. And Jake, what do you think?
So they pretty much hit about what I was going to say, but definitely laying into for each robot kind of your objectives for it, the pros and the cons. And when you list out the pros and the cons, you can then put that into the objectives of your second robot and use that to show the transformation. Also using the iterative process, so kind of defining your problems, your concepts, your solutions, and then how you build and test them to get from your 1.0 to your 2.0 is really important.
Thank you for that. Yeah, and if I'm looking at, so I, as a coach, from my point of view, and my team knows this, that I'm always, when we're reviewing portfolios, I'm always, what does the rubric say, right? Back to the rubric, which is why if we look at what's required here, as far as the bullet point that really talks about, like if you have a 1.0 and a 2.0, or my goodness, God forbid, a 3.0, is that you can document examples of the engineering content that illustrate how you got to that solution. So like your point of showing your 1.0 in your portfolio is for that, like why, like what you learned from it is the most important thing. All right, the second question that we have here is, do you recommend making an engineering notebook alongside a portfolio? So this time we'll go Connor, Jake, and then Mitch. So what are your recommendations about an engineering notebook alongside the portfolio?
I definitely recommend making an engineering notebook because it documents pretty much everything your team has done. And I mean, even without judging, if one of your teammates like wasn't able to attend to some meetings, if they just look at the engineering notebook, they'll know pretty much what has been going on and they'll be able to catch up. but I know for like judging in specific, if you just like have just so many pages documenting what you've done, the judges will be impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, you should definitely have one alongside a portfolio. Obviously, not just for yourself, but also for the judges, because it can really help you. It's where you can really flesh out your engineering process, essentially. So your thinking and all of that more than you can say in the portfolio. And then also, as Connor said, it is a really good way to keep track of everything. And when you do keep track of everything, I think last year we had a binder that was maybe like 2 inches thick of just pages upon pages of tracking what we did every single day. I think the judges just seeing that and being able to flip through to any page and get a detailed like explanation of what's going on, I think they're very impressed by that. So that can play a big part in it.
All right, Mitch, could you, as you're thinking about your answer, could you think about like when the judges came around and they've already seen your portfolio, they've heard your presentation, like what's the point of having that at your table? Like how can that be helpful when you're interacting with the judges?
I honestly think that like it's helpful so they can't like say that you're bluffing when you said that you spent this many hours and this much work on a certain design. I definitely advocate if you're going to have an engineering notebook, start it as early as in the season as possible, because if you want to reference a certain aha moment or a certain iteration or prototype that you had designed earlier in the season, when the judges come over to your pit table, you can be flipping to that page and then just slowly turn it to them. So if one of the judges may glance, look at it, take a deeper look, and start like joining you in the design process mindset that you had back then. Another good reason to have an engineering notebook is because you are going to lose pictures and you're going to forget information if you don't have it over time. There are times that I wish I had written something down or a certain detail down in September, and then I'm at my computer in January and I can't remember why I made this mechanism. So it's not only good for preparing for a portfolio, it's really good for documentation in general.
All right, thank you so much for that. Our next question, how can we show growth or long-term impact from our outreach events? All right, so this is thinking about in your notebook, you've done an event, and you want to make sure you can show how your team has grown from that or the long-term impact. How can we show that in our portfolio? I'm going to go to, well, you all look like you need a moment to think. So as you're thinking, I'm going to give you a moment to think about that, because this is a tough question. It is one of the things that, especially if you want to elevate yourself as a higher level team, like a team that's going to be a strong contender for Inspire, we don't want to just do an event. We want to think about the impact of that event, right? That's one of first core principles is our impact. So I guess to start with that, I think is one, how do we make sure we're doing outreach that is impactful? And then two, how can we show that long-term impact? So let's go ahead. I'm going to start with Mitch on this one. Then we're going to go Jake and Connor. You three are in a row, so I'm just going back the opposite way this time.
I think the first thing that when you are thinking of outreach events that do impact, there are some events that end up being numbers, and then some that you know are engaging with STEM professionals, engaging with your community. And I know some teams like to say that, oh, STEM engagement outreach events are better than community engagement, but I think they're all the same very well, because if you're going to do community outreach, if you're able to tie in first engagement somehow, like if you are, let's say you're hosting like a table at a fair, why are you hosting the table at that fair? What is the message you're supposed to be giving the passerbys? I know I did one like 2 years ago. Our team's goal was to expose young families of young children about what FIRST is and FIRST programs that are available in their community, and they can get engaged. Because I know when talking to a lot of people, some of these outreach events, the one thing that people wish is that they had these opportunities around when they were younger. So they want to have those opportunities for their young kids. So youth STEM engagement is a great spike to have in your portfolio. For STEM-based engagement opportunities, I would say make sure that you're able to get like one mentor out of it. If you're going on a facility tour, get someone's email, reach out, connect. And also, Career Insight is a great way to tie in STEM tours into your portfolio, along with STEM perspectives. Even though you're not having maybe aerospace engineer as a mentor, if you're able to notice a way to have a machinery laid out or how they approach assembly, you can take that insight and bring it back and apply it to your team. That can also be a way it gets incorporated into your portfolio. So I also say it's not only about doing outreach with intent, it's also about spinning those experience and results into a narrative that fits your portfolio.
Thank you. So I'm gonna, one thing that as you were talking, I was thinking that might be helpful for people is for us to use a specific example of 9848's outreach from this year. So Connor, correct me if I'm wrong, you're one of the students that participated at NJEA, the NJEA convention this year. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So can you talk to me a little bit about how you feel that, or how you know so first, let me back up, I apologize. Could you give like a little snippet about what that event was, and then how you know for your team that was an impactful outreach event?
So NJEA was the New Jersey Teachers Convention, and they have a bunch of booths there for really anything. And we set ours up, and we spoke to really so many teachers and mentors. We met at least I know one for sure. I know there's a ton more, but there were so many mentors that we met and connected with that will hopefully be lasting connections for years afterwards. And we also, I believe we started like a couple teams from that, right?
Yeah, so I think one of the students that's on this call is from Raider Tech, the Paulsboro team. So being able to meet a teacher and introduce them to First there made sure that was seen as impactful. And then Jake, you're mentoring that team right now. So like, can you talk about so we had this outreach event, and now how is your experience mentoring them able to show that like this whole process has been impactful?
Hold on, I'm still kind of processing. Can you say that one more time?
So I guess, can you just talk about, let me start with this. Do you feel like you're making an impact mentoring at the Paulsboro, the new team in Paulsboro?
Yeah, I would like to say I am.
All right, and how do you know that?
Throughout the meetings. So I've been there since the beginning, and throughout the meetings, I can just see their skill development getting, like, literally see it between each meeting getting better and better. Like before, they didn't, like, no offense, they didn't know how to use like an Allen key or anything, but after that I could see them assembling an entire like axle system by themselves after teaching them kind of like how to utilize the tools they have in front of them and how to like really read the instructions and documents.
All right, thank you all so much. I know that was a tough question, so I appreciate you all jumping in on that. I'm going to jump down and then I'm going to go back up to a couple questions. There was a question following up about the engineering notebook. Is it too late in the season to make one at this point? So, right, if we're here January 15th, we've got a league tournament within the next few weeks to a month, depending on the league. Is it too late to make one? What do we think? Who wants to take that question? I think you're looking like you're not sure, right? We're weighing the options here. I'm going to say, I don't know that there's a right or wrong answer. If you haven't created one at this point in the season, so from my point of view as a coach, I wonder if it will provide the value for you for the time invested when you're also at a time where you're finalizing a robot and really focusing on the portfolio. However, I don't think there's an ever too late. So I think that it could certainly be helpful, and you could kind of document your process over the next couple of weeks. But I think in the future, maybe the earlier, the better. All right, we've got two more. The next two questions are really about formatting and layout in the portfolio. So we've got, how can I make my pages look less bland and generic, right? So I think this is speaking to how can a team make sure their portfolio is going to stand out in a positive way, right? To be unique. Mitch, what do you think?
I know a strategy that I used with my team last year before we even started the layout. We had this type of branding template page. So we made a bunch of color palettes, different colors that we wanted to use, different font and font sizes. And I think if you have a team that's space theme, like we spent more time on more rounded, more sans serif, more bubbly, bold fonts. If you're a team that is like ours, like 9848, we have more black and gold, different shades of gold, and serif fonts, and we had this type of newsletter style print. Of course, your team doesn't have to stay with the same theme across years, but I think the best way, if you want to start and try to make a more intuitive layout, is to think of your reader looking at it as an S going down the page. So text, image, image, text, text, image, following that S, it keeps the flow a bit more dynamic and less looking like blocks of text. If you feel like you're having more blocks of text, try condensing some of your points into bullet points, because sometimes what's making your page feel clunky is that you're using too many words to convey the same idea that can be conveyed in less.
All right, thank you. Before I read the last question that we have right now, I just want to give one final call. If anyone else has any other questions, go ahead and drop them now. Otherwise, here's the last question that we currently have. What kinds of visuals or data make outreach sections stand out to the judges? Right, so thinking about what visuals or data in your outreach section specifically stand out to the judges. Let's see, Connor or Jake, who wants to take that one? I saw Connor unmuted, so I think you're up.
Yeah, so I think just some information for outreach is being able to connect with mentors and to keep them in the loop about what you're doing throughout the season. Because you don't just want to have a mentor just to say you have a mentor. You want to have a mentor and to interact with them at least fairly regularly and have them included in FTC basically. And what else? Another thing with mentors is that you could have I apologize. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Mitch or Jake, either of you want to jump in?
So I feel so for outreach, in terms of your visuals and your data, obviously, so last year we had, trying to think how I want to say this. So we had a little section on our outreach pages that were kind of a summary of it. So we had, throughout the page, we had a bunch of the important events. So for example, we had I think it was 6 different sustainability events, but on the page we only showcased 3 or 4 of them, the 3 or 4 most important ones. So in terms of visuals, we had pictures from all of them, a little snippet of text, and then we still had the number of the 6, and then somewhere else we also had the listing of what it was. So I would say definitely have your total events, even if you can't list them all fully in the portfolio, have their own section. Still want to list the events that you have data in terms of that. I would say mostly just how many people you've reached, how many mentors you've gained, or how many people you've impacted. And then again, just how many things you've done is like the big part. Like, especially us last year, we had like 12 FTC events, 6 sustainability events. Just highlight the big numbers, especially for something like Pack Expo we went to, where even you could say it's about how many people you've reached. So we reached like 20,000 people from that event. We didn't necessarily talk to 20,000 people, but we reached 20,000. So putting the big numbers and everything you have on there.
Yeah, I would-
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go.
One thing I'd also like to add to Jake is that when you're having these big numbers, judges have around like 5 minutes to page through your portfolio and see what stands out to them. If they're looking for like a connect or reach award and that relies on like having big events, they may not be able to read your entire paragraph, but I think everyone knows that you cannot ignore a big number. Now, by no means blow it out of proportion, but make it stand out, because that means the judge is going to write that down, come to you during your pit interview, and might even ask you on that. And if you're able to expand on your personal experience and show your impact, that's even a stronger thing for your team.
Yeah, so what I would add to that is if you look at the link to 9848's portfolio from last year, at the bottom of page 4, I think there's a good example of some visuals, which highlights, it's sort of like a band across the bottom that highlights the big important numbers, the impressive numbers, whatever those are for your team. As far as other visuals, I think it can be helpful to include some timelines as well, and maybe some tables or graphs into your notebook, so it breaks up from just like photo and text, but that you have some other planned graphics as well. All right. I'm just double checking. I think we are good on questions. So if you all want to continue to the last couple of slides you have.
All right. So thank you for everyone for attending. It's been a great time. Just a reminder, our next session will be on January 1st, also at 6 p.m. I believe it's just the next Thursday. And that one will be about judging presentation tips and tricks. So that'll be like when you're talking to the judges. Is that it? Yep, that's it. All right. Thanks, everyone.
I'd also like to add that if anyone on the call has any portfolio questions or concerns, or you want to like have us like check over and see what we think of your portfolio, don't be afraid to like send a link or of the PDF to our email 9848@student.clevelandregional.edu. It's on the screen. I think Ms. B also put it in the chat as well. We're always happy to help other teams in New Jersey.